Welcome back to Johnston Bros. We got another episode we're shooting today, changing gears a little bit on subjects again. So we went through the King James part 1, 2, and 3, why we use that Bible version. Go back and listen and watch that if you haven't. It's some good stuff. I think we got a lot of comments, a lot of good reactions to that, and a lot of people viewing it and asking questions. So that's been great. What did we do last week? I'm already forgetting. That was the third part, was Wednesday, right? Yeah. So switching gears into a new subject today, we're actually going to be getting into some questions and things out there about giants. There's all kinds of videos coming. Luke, your face right now is killing me, dude.
It's just a normal face.
No. It's not. He's like...
He looks like he's got a boot.
For context, Luke hurt his back when he was driving here, which we don't know how that's possible. So,
but he's like wincing in pain.
Anybody out there that's ever tweaked their back, I mean, you know how easy that can happen.
While you're driving, though.
Yeah, usually
when you're sitting
35-year-old.
No, I wasn't sitting still.
So, like I said, giants, even fallen angels, spiritual warfare, UFOs. What else we got? We were talking about that stuff. We were talking.
Well, we're talking about things going on in the news right now.
Seed.
This is the thing that's what brought it up. There are things on the mainstream, guys. We're not talking about Babylon B here. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about mainstream representatives from the government, panels from the government hearing about these things, and Michael Knowles with Daily Wire discussing these things about giants and the things we're going to look at today happening right now in the world. And if you think we're crazy, I mean, the government's already admitting this stuff. It's absolutely out there. And so stick around for the end. We're going to react to a few videos, and I think your minds, if you haven't seen it, your minds are going to be blown. You're going to be like, I can't believe that's actually happening. Like the Bible said.
Even 5 years ago, this would have been conspiracy theory, and what we're going to talk about today, people probably would have scrolled right by and said, "Okay, they're conspiracy."
I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I saw this video of this guy the other day. I don't know if any of you guys have seen him. He used to be a CIA operative, high up in the CIA, and he actually, you can tell his stories and things. You're like, no, this guy's legit. And he said that this conspiracy theory was a term invented by the CIA 40, 50 years ago to try to discount all these things that people were looking into, to try to make it seem like it was like, oh, that's what crazy people. It was invented by them. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of sense. That's interesting. Now, not all of them are true, but I mean, there's truth to some of them.
But for that to be said, I was even watching a press conference with Trump the other day, and so NASA years ago released some of these these UFO files and stuff that we can look into and see. But then in a panel with Trump, they're asking about it again. There's a ton more that Trump said is actually about to get released, and they're working through right now. Not all of it, and he says all this. But there is stuff that they want to let the public know, stuff that's going on. And this is like daily right now.
Yeah.
These things coming out. And then people that have been involved in the federal government for years who have now retired and moved out, they're going on podcasts, they're going on news channels and talking about these things. And then to the tip of the iceberg to me is like, we've had 15 scientists. Have you guys seen that stuff?
Yeah.
These people that have been involved in NASA, in nuclear power, I think it's 10 to 15 now have either been found missing or dead over the past 2 years, and now they're looking into that. This stuff's insane.
They asked Trump about that, and he said, yeah, we're looking into it.
But no, that is true. If you look back at history and stuff, you can start to see some of these things pop up, especially with UFO and these extraterrestrial blah, blah, blah. Now, what is it now? It's not UFO now. Now it's
UAP.
Yeah. So we'll get into
unidentified aerial phenomenon.
But real quick, while we're doing that, if you are watching, just drop something in the comments, whether it's an emoji, a comment, a question, anything that you have. We're looking for topics. We might be ending the controversial topics here coming up in the next few weeks if we don't get some more things dropped in the comments. True. We were actually looking for what you guys are thinking and what you have to say. There's a lot of stuff we thought about, but drop something in there now, and then we'll react to a video later about this stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into scripture, see what it has to say. We'll start with giants, and we'll see where it goes. We're going to kind of go.
Yeah, we're going to try and be free-flowing on this one, so you guys might get a treat today.
All right, let's...
Genesis chapter 6, if you want to follow along with us. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 6.
I can start reading it if we want.
Go ahead.
Do you think the King James subject is applicable here as we go through the subject? Do you think every word matters that we're going to be looking at here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
That's how they land on these are the sons of Seth or something weird. All right, Genesis 6, verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. That's probably as far as we need to go.
Yeah, that's good for now.
Right.
And so God goes on to see that the wickedness of man and in everyone's heart and their mind was only evil continually, and that's when He actually is driven to then flood the earth in the time of Noah. So just for some immediate context there.
Actually, I'll just read through verse 7.
Go ahead.
And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man, with whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
So something that I want to say right off the bat, see what you guys think. When people say Nephilim and they go
Yeah.
to that, what do you guys think of that? I've never been a fan of when they say
They're
Nephilim.
trying to. Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying something?
No, it's just using these big words in
Yeah.
the original languages, and Nicolaitan is kind
Yeah.
of what it is to me. Again,
It's
not
not a
everybody
biblical
that-
word.
that
Well, there's a
use-
lot of people I've even know that are around us that would say Nephilim, and I think it's just because they've heard a lot of other people
You know
say
where else
it.
it comes from?
No, that's what.
The Book of Enoch. You
Okay.
don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's why people actually shy away from thinking these are giants. They associate believing that this is giants with the creation of giants and the falling of the angels and creating, all that basically that these are the angels that left heaven and or that had already fallen and then went and had sex with the daughters of men. And they don't want to believe that because they think that's like Book of Enoch beliefs. Well, yes, the Book of Enoch might talk about that, but so does the Bible. And so where they match up, the Bible's correct.
So yeah, I've never loved the use of the word Nephilim. It's giant. Use the King James, use the English that we have, use the Bible that you have to define the words that you use. It makes it a lot easier on everyone. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into what we're talking about here. So we're talking about fallen angels that rebelled against God, that Lucifer had really, or Satan when he had rebelled, the angels that had fallen with him. We have about a third of the angels. You can go to Revelation and see that. But those angels that had fallen, they go to the earth and they take wives. They don't just, get married. No, that's not the point. They choose women that they see on the planet, females that look good to them, and they sleep with them. And then they have children, and these children, these offspring that they create are these really what becomes kind of soulless, giant,
says
mighty.
they became mighty men.
Yeah.
Were of old. I mean, it wasn't. And again, even we'll get there in a minute, but mighty men, that takes you back to Nimrod. Is the first place that you're going to see something like that show up. But I think like the key phrases, there's some key phrases, some key words in here that kind of are going to land you and get you where you need to go. Obviously, there were giants in those days is a key. The sons of God. We want to study out and see who the sons of God are. So the sons of God, you got to find out, okay, who are these sons of God that came and took the daughters of men? Because that's the question. Right? Because if we'll show you what we believe the sons of God are, and the Bible makes it pretty clear. But a lot of people will say, "Oh no, that's not who you're talking about," and that's how they land on. Oh, this is the offspring of Seth is what they land on, even though it makes no sense because why would they become giants?
Yeah.
So sons of God. Let's trace out sons of God through the Bible, and you'll land in. Is it Job chapter 1, I believe?
Yep, Job 1,
6.
I believe Job 2.
In the end of Job 2 somewhere.
We're in Job 2.
Doesn't he present himself before God in Job 1 and 2?
Yeah, but then in Job, I think it's 40.
38.
When the morning stars.
Well, let's go to all
the sons of
38.
God shouted for joy.
Yeah, Job 1, verse 6. It says, Now there was a day when the sons of God, same exact phrase that we see in Genesis, comparing Scripture with Scripture, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and walking up and down in it. And the Lord said to Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? We probably don't need to keep going from there.
You know what a shoe means, right? A few guys were watching last week.
But anyway, what we see here is these sons of God are specifically the people that are presenting themselves before the Lord with Satan.
Yeah.
They are the ones. Satan had to come before God because, again, Job gets in this battle between God and Satan. It's like a tug of war match, basically, with Job in the middle. And the people that present themselves with the devil are these sons of God. Now answer me this. How could that be the lineage of Seth?
Well, we're going to have to keep going to prove it. Absolutely.
But yeah, this isn't the only one.
All right.
So they are around at this time is the point. They are the ones
what
presenting.
we want to do is we want to
God.
let this passage of Genesis 6 speak for itself by using the Bible to define what who are these sons of God that fell, that left and took these wives and created these giants? What is this? What's going on? The Bible is our answer, not the Greek, not the Hebrew, not anything else. The Bible should be our answer.
But if the Hebrew could also be translated this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep seeing that in our comments.
So let's look more at the sons of God. So did you read 1:6? Did you read 2:1 as well? Because again, it says this in Job 2:1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And as far as I know, I don't know of any other time where we present ourselves before God physically
with the devil.
with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something weird. So you look at Genesis 6, you're like, okay, this is weird. The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all they chose. You're like, okay, maybe that could be man, but they were already doing that. So there's something
Well,
weird
I would
going
argue
on.
that it could be men presenting themselves with Satan. Maybe it's referring to the future or the past. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not a good argument, but I'm saying it's possible. So
Yeah.
we want to keep going probably.
So we'll just lay it. Well, then Job 38:7 is really the one that just is like, it's
Nail
the
in the
nail in the
coffin,
coffin.
for
You
sure.
can't get around it. So I'm going to back up a little bit and read Job 38:1. For those of you that don't know, Job was down on himself at this point, and God basically reprimands him and says, who are you? You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I've created. It's an amazing passage. It says this. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is that darkeneth this counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy.
There it is again. Sons
yeah.
of God.
But what's the context?
Foundation, cornerstones of the earth,
of the earth.
foundations. Talking about the very, very beginning. It couldn't be clear.
Listen, you can't, if you're out there and maybe you've heard this and you don't believe it or you're closed-minded to it, whatever, you cannot argue with the phrase sons of God, where it shows up, and that's the content. You can't get around that. So
Yeah.
there better be another explanation. If you have a problem with all of this, this is where we start. Sons of God, who are they? Okay, Job 1 tells us. Job 38 tells us. You can't get around who they
Job
are
2.
and when they were here.
Mm-hmm.
So that is point number one from the Bible. We don't go to the book of Enoch, say, oh, there are these Nephilim things. Now let's try to fit the Bible into this idea. It's
Yeah.
not what we're doing here.
Well, the Nephilim are the giants, I think, is what they'd say. I don't think that's about the sons of God, is it? No.
No, not necessarily. But people confuse. That's the point we're
It's
making.
just they make it confusing by
it
using
gets
anti-biblical.
confusing, and we're going to
Giants
break
is
all
a lot
that down
easier
today.
than Nephilim.
Yeah.
Why do we have to say Nephilim?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I brought it up.
Giants is pretty self-explanatory.
It
Hey-
is.
Hey kid, this is a Nephilim. They'd be like, what? Be like, oh, it's a giant. And they're like, oh,
Oh.
it's a big guy.
Yeah.
So back to Job 38, just to shore this up here. God tells Job, hey, basically put your pants on. Stop acting like a baby, Job. I demand an answer from you. Where were you when I laid the foundations, and all my cherubs, my morning stars, we're not going to get into that even today, were there. And when all of the sons of God, or all of my angels, sang together with joy. Where were you when that was there? You have no idea, Job.
Speaking of which, notice that angels are never mentioned in the creation story. It's because they were created right around verse 1, where the foundations of the earth were laid. God created the heaven
Yep.
and the earth. Yeah, that's when
Which
they
we
were
did a
created.
podcast on that
Yeah.
in this series. The Gap.
So just sons of God, the next time it shows up is actually in the New Testament, that exact phraseology. And we're not going to get into that too much, but what I'll say with this is it switches gears when you look at scripture. It's actually really cool. So you have these Old Testament references to sons of God, which is clearly not man. It's not human beings. But then the New Testament, it switches to actually the believers. If you've accepted Christ as your savior, you are called a son of God. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, you're adopted into his family according to scripture. We are his children. And so he calls us his sons of God. And one of our youth pastors, when we were growing up, he explained this really well. And it's a great picture. He talks about how when God had all the angels and some of them fell, he's kind of in a way trying to replace some of those angels that had fallen, and gives us that name that they once had, the sons of God name, to give to show us what he really means to us and what the plan is that he has all along. And so that's why you see this big switch in the New Testament, is it's no longer fallen angels. Now it's believers through the blood of Christ when we accept him, because his spirit, and if you look back at Genesis 6, he says, my spirit should always be with man. and with the fallen angels, and then now his spirit is with man when we accept him as Savior. It's just really cool, something to
Yep.
get it. We're not going to get into that all today.
So to break that down, what we see here in Genesis 6 is pretty simple. We see the sons of God, which is now we've seen angels, and I think that applies to all angels. I think it was probably all of the angels and Lucifer that presented themselves before God,
Yeah.
fallen and not fallen, and that God required that of them. The sons of God here in verse 2 saw the daughters of men, they were fair, took them wives which they chose, and then the result of them having sex with these women, these human women, was giants. Now that makes more sense than, well, these sons of God are the sons of Seth. These were the believers, if you will, of the Old Testament. And when believers had, sexual relations with these women, it created giants. Well, where do you get that from? Where do you get the sons of God being called the Old Testament believers from? Where none of that makes sense. And then you go to verse 9, and it goes even further. Now these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. Does that mean Noah was perfect? Is any man perfect? Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory
Job
of
was
God.
perfect.
But he was perfect. How was Job perfect? In his generations. What's that
What's
root
Noah?
of generations?
Genes.
Generation.
Genes. No, but think about that. Guys, this now starts giving more to the story of the flood and everything than most people give credit for. God was flooding the earth, not just because it was wickedness. It's wicked today. I would argue it might be more wicked in many ways than it was at this point in history.
Yeah.
But it was because the gene pool, the generations of man had been tainted by these fallen angels having intercourse and creating these giants, and then that spread. It became disgusting and gross and abomination to God. But he found Noah, who was perfect in his generations.
Yeah.
His gene pool had not been corrupted, and he said, I'm going to restart with this family. That is what's going on here. That's what's going on here.
So yeah, so even a little bit past that, it goes further. So Noah was perfect in his generations, his genes. They hadn't been corrupted by this seed. It actually even goes further than that. If you look in Genesis 6, verse 12, and it says, and God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. All flesh, which tells me what? Okay, this is further than even just the human genealogy, if you will, getting corrupted.
Yeah.
That there was stuff going on between all kinds of flesh. And this is where you get into
Humans and beasts.
Mythology.
humans and beasts. And again, you think of Greek mythology, or wait, I guess,
Think of Greek mythology, this whole story of these
Yeah.
gods coming from the heavens or from the sea, and then they find these women. It happened in a show I was just watching with Poseidon and Percy Jackson, and there's this god man who's a god, and they create these sons that are, some of them are
Half
giants,
god,
but they're
half
half
man.
god, half man, and they're extremely strong. The Hercules.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Where does that mythology come? And then we have some of them half horse, half man.
literally.
These centaurs and things. That's what Jaden's talking about. Hey guys, Greek mythology, all that stuff, it comes from somewhere.
Yep.
The Bible, all that stuff comes from the Bible. It's crazy when
Well,
you start thinking about
specifically, it came. So mythology, as we know, it came from the last one was Roman mythology, and Roman mythology stemmed from Greek mythology, and Greek mythology came straight out of Babylon. And what we're about to talk about with Nimrod, then in Genesis 5, is where all this starts. and
Yeah.
Where all this is, we can track this back to.
So
That's
the point
crazy.
is this corruption of the gene pool, if you will, it was not just humans, is the point we're getting at. All of this stuff stems back from the Bible. And the problem was they started worshiping these creatures and beasts, and that's where mythology and stuff comes from,
Yeah.
instead of obviously God. It's something evil.
Yeah.
It's
And notice what we haven't done even one time yet. We haven't had to go to the Hebrew or the Greek or the Apocrypha to make our point, the book of Enoch. It's all right here. The generations, the all flesh, the sons of God, cross-referencing. Who is that? All of it's right here in your Bible. And they created giants, not Nephilim. We don't have to make it more confusing. All of it right here in our Bible when you study it and cross-reference. And that's what we're going to do now, because now we see that, well, okay, but when I think of fallen angels, you're out there thinking, when I think of fallen angels, I think of spiritual warfare, the principalities and powers that are fighting and these wars in the heavenlies.
Yep.
So what are they there? What happened to these guys that fell? Because then in Jude and in 2 Peter, we see another group of angels that are bound up. And why is that all happening? And we want to look at that.
Yeah.
And what started in Mark 12:25? Mark 12:25 gives us a little hint about something with angels. The disciples are asking Jesus about, a woman, if she has all these husbands and then her husband dies and she gets remarried, who's going to be your husband in the next life? And he's basically like, hey, don't worry about all that. For when they shall rise from the dead, he says, for when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. So what are angels not?
People
Yeah, but what are they not supposed to do?
get married.
Get married. They're not supposed to have sex. That is something that is off limits to angels. That is absolutely something off limits to angels. And I'm not saying that to say that, I know there's,
And they're all men too, by the way.
yeah, and they're all men. But the point is that is something that God expressly says angels were not supposed to do. And we find out more about that as we go here. So maybe someone go to Jude, and then
I'm in Jude right now.
I'll go to some of the other passages.
So Jude, verse 5 says, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, he's talking about Israel, afterward destroyed them that believed not. God had destroyed them. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal life.
Even everything that we see here, these angels, we're going to talk about them obviously, but even going back to what we just mentioned in Genesis, we see even as Sodom and Gomorrah, this sin that these angels are performing now, even as is compared to the sin in Sodom and Gomorrah. What do we know Sodom and Gomorrah for? Sexual sin, going after strange flesh, also what we had just mentioned.
Well, strange flesh being, and I was just talking about this. Those men in Sodom, they went after the angels, and I've also often heard that story. And well, it's in a homosexual way, or to basically rape them. But what if they knew that they were angels, and that's the strange flesh it's talking about? What if those men in Sodom knew they were angels still and didn't care and still wanted them and to sleep with them? And we wonder how in the world are there giants going to be in the end times again? Well, it's men in Sodom and Gomorrah were trying to sleep with the angels. And it can happen again. Who knows? This is crazy stuff. But this is what the scripture says. We're not making this up. Jude literally says this: the angels that kept not their first estate, which would have been heaven, and their own habitation, which would have been their home in heaven, they left there. And he actually has reserved those angels in the chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. So those specific angels that fell, left their home, left the whatever family unit situation that they had in heaven, which who knows what that is, came down, slept with women on the earth, had children, and God has now reserved those specific angels in darkness until the great day of judgment.
And then why is that significant? Well, because that's my driver's license that just fell out. And then because in Daniel chapter 10, we see this spiritual warfare going on in the heavenlies. Then in Daniel chapter 10, then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, thy words were heard. So Daniel is praying for help from God, and Gabriel shows up as part of that answer to prayer. And I am come for thy words. He's come to answer this prayer. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. So for 21 days, this prince of the kingdom of Persia, we're going to see here in a second, principalities and powers, what that means in the Bible. This prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood Gabriel for 21 days. And then it says, but lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, Michael the archangel. And he came and helped him. This is a spiritual battle. And there was this prince of the kingdom of Persia. That's where you find out angels and fallen angels are over these areas in the Bible, and they are like basically in charge of it. It's kind of how it goes. You can't figure it out. My back hurts so bad. I keep not being able to get words out. He's over this Persia area, and it's just a whole different subject we're not going to get into, but that's what it's talking about here. And then what's clear, because Gabriel an angel and Michael an angel were fighting him, and they were trying to fight that answer to prayer for Daniel. It's a really interesting story. We get a picture of it there. And so we see the same thing in Daniel 10, 20, and 21. Michael, the prince, is fighting against the prince of Persia and against the prince of Grecia. Those are fallen angels. They're fighting against Michael.
Spiritual warfare.
In Daniel 12, talking about the last days, it says, at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the people of the children of thy people. He's the prince over Israel. He's the guardian angel, if you will, the archangel over protecting Israel. There's actual warfare in the heavenlies. We see all over the Bible that this is going on. We see it in Jude.
Well, Jude 1:9.
Michael,
Yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. And so you have Michael fighting Satan. And this is a whole other thing again as well. Contending over the body of Moses. We're not going to get into that at all because that's a whole other crazy thing. But again, Michael and the heavenlies are most likely in space, contending with the devil, fighting with him. Even Michael doesn't even rail against Satan.
Yeah, he doesn't want to
Satan's
contend
so
with him
powerful.
because he's so powerful.
And then in Daniel, there's another story where Michael, or it's Michael, I think, is fighting with Satan as he's trying to come down and give Daniel a message, but he can't even get there because they're battling all through space.
That was what he read.
I think
what I was reading.
that's the context of that one.
And then in Ephesians 6, verses 11 through 12, again, I'm just proving this because this is going to lay up everything else we're talking about really easily. Because this is important. This proves there's a difference with these fallen angels. There's different classes of fallen angels. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. In Ephesians 6, put on the whole armor of God. We know that story. That you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Not flesh and blood, not body and bones, but against principalities, princes, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. They're in high places. They're over governments, over areas. They are these princes, these spiritual powers ruling over that darkness. In Colossians 2, Jesus spoiled the principalities and powers at the cross. Interesting wording. There's so many different examples here. Let me see. I'm going to give
Jude
the best
here?
ones.
Hold
on 1 second. Romans 8. For I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers. So what did he just connect with principalities and powers there? Angels, again. 1 Peter 3, who has gone into heaven and is at the right hand of God. Angels and authorities and powers. How about 2 Kings with the story with Elisha? You guys know this one that I'm talking about? Where God opens his eyes when he's saying, there's no way we can win. And God opens his eyes and he looks around him on the mountains. And there's chariots of fire all around him.
Yep.
We can't see there's spiritual battles going on around us. God just opened his eyes to see it. We don't get to see it all the time.
How about in Joshua, where Joshua's going into battle and he sees a dude standing in front of him with a sword drawn out of the middle of nowhere. And then you find out it's actually Jesus Christ pre-incarnate, the angel of the Lord, the captain of the host of the Lord's army. And the whole point is that Christ or God is leading us into these battles and fighting our spiritual warfares that we never see. And it's going on all around us constantly, but we don't see it. That's what the fallen angels have to do with.
Not only we don't see it, but the problem is most people, even the Christian world, most people are just oblivious to it. They have no idea what's really going on around us. Yeah. They read stories like this, they read verses like this, but we go about in our day-to-day life, and most Christians are like, they don't think about this spiritual battle that's going on all around us.
Look up the phrase to and fro, going to and fro. And what you find is that's connected with Satan and these angels, and that Satan is constantly, just like the Holy Spirit of God is always moving, and the first mention we have of is he's moving, Satan's always moving. He's going to and fro through the earth, constantly looking through, going, scanning. And then Jude 1, this is pretty cool too. It talks about, Jude 1.
There's only one Jude.
I know. I knew it was going to happen eventually. Jude 13 says this, raging waves of the sea, talking about these fallen angels, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars. And so scripture also compares angels to stars. And then you have these wandering stars that just go wherever they want. They do whatever they want. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Those stars, they're reserved in the blackness of darkness forever. Just crazy stuff.
So then why does this all matter? Why does it matter that there are certain, you're like, yeah, I know there's spiritual warfare. I believe that there's good angels, bad angels. There's these warfares. We see that all over the Bible. Because then the question becomes, and you need to think about it, why are there angels that are fallen that are bound up in the book of Jude? Why is that the case? Or in 2 Peter 2, let's read this, 2 Peter 2:4. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Wait a second. But so if this is talking about the fall of Lucifer, the angels that fell, they sinned and fell with Lucifer, then who's fighting spiritual warfare?
Yeah.
Who's out in the heavenlies fighting spiritual warfare? Not them. This is the story. This is what we're trying to give you the picture of if you're not catching it yet. When Lucifer fell, there was angels that fell with him. Most likely they all fell at once, I would say. And then later on, some of those fallen angels in Genesis 6 decided to take daughters of men and sleep with them and create giants.
But likely not all of them, but many of them.
Well, definitely not all of them.
Yeah.
Because then what happened is God said, remember we looked at what are angels not supposed to do? They're not supposed to marry. They're not supposed to have sex. That is something that is off limits to them. And God said, nope, you went too far. And those angels that sinned, we see in 2 Peter and in Jude, God chained up to judgment. They are no longer free to roam and to battle in spiritual wickedness in these spiritual battles anymore. That's the other ones that fell with Lucifer. Yeah, they fell, but they're still free to roam.
Yeah.
They still present themselves before God.
Who's going to be judging those angels?
Yeah, we are.
We are.
Exactly. It says, know ye not that you should judge angels? Who is that? Who is that?
Well, it's in Corinthians, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's these angels that are chained in hell into everlasting darkness. So these are going to be the angels that we get to judge, that we're responsible for judging when it says, know ye not that you should judge angels.
It's true. Fallen ones. And so you have fallen angels. You have giants. They're not the same thing. People get those confused. Nephilim is not an overarching term of all of them. We don't really use that term at all because it's used incorrectly constantly. And there's multiple things going on here that we're talking about. So fallen angels, angels that serve with God, fell. Some of them slept with women and had sex with them and had children. Some of them did not.
The ones that did,
created giant offspring in Genesis 6, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more.
And then they were chained
then they
up.
were chained
God
up.
said, nope, you're not allowed
And
to
we're the
free
ones that
roam anymore.
Yep, exactly. And that could happen, and we don't know for sure. That could happen during the flood. When he flooded the earth, that could have been the time where he chained a lot of those angels up and redid it there. And that's why we have fallen angels that still exist in spiritual warfare and spirits, and why we don't.
But I think that's one of the best arguments for this, because again, if you think that this is not angels, some people don't believe this is angels, the sons of God in Genesis 6, then why are some angels that fell chained up and why are some free? There's got to be a reason.
Point.
It says that the ones that sinned were chained up.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the Luciferian rebellion that they sinned in. There was something beyond that.
So what we've been talking about is this spiritual warfare now that goes on today, that these fallen angels are a part of it, that there's so many other things going on behind the scenes, really in the spirit world that we live in today, the one that we can't physically see, battles that are going on between Satan, fallen angels, that God and his angels, Michael, Gabriel, just crazy stuff, right? And so we want to go back to Genesis 6 real quick, and there's a key phrase in there we want to focus on. And we're going to track that through the Bible to connect it to really what's going on today, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is to finish out with how is this connecting today? Why are we talking about this? Why is this weird stuff happening? Why is it all over the news? We want to get into that. So let's look at Genesis chapter 6. Anyone there yet?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It says, so we looked at verses 1 through 3, the sons of God, sexual relations with the daughters of men, and creating the giants. And here see this interesting phrase in your Bible that the King James uses that in modern versions can tend to take out or switch around. It takes this consistency out of your Bible. It's really important. It says, there were giants in the earth in those days. Now, we don't have time to prove this today. We absolutely could. It would take hours because of how many times it shows up.
Yeah.
But in the Bible, we see in those days is prophetically referencing almost exclusively the tribulation period, that this is going to happen again in the tribulation period.
And leading right up to it even.
And
right
I remember hearing this and thinking, yeah, I know the Bible says in those days there's going to be giants again. I believe that. And then even in Matthew 24, verse 37, Jesus says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. When I come back, the second coming, the tribulation period, it's going to be like the days of Noah were. For as in the days that they were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and given in marriage. He's like, remember all the marrying and taking of wives going on back then? All that is going to be happening again until the day that Noah entered the ark. He's saying just like those days, what was going on then, in those days, how Genesis 6 says that, in those days, Jesus says the days of Noah, it's going to be like that when I come back again. So it is going to happen again.
And don't believe
giants
us?
and everything.
Don't believe us, Micah, when you are studying the Bible and you see something that says, let's say you come across Matthew and it says, as in the days of Noah, so it's going to be in the end times. What are you going to do with that phrase, as in the day of Noah? What are you going to do just studying the Bible?
Go to the days of Noah.
Yep, and where are you going to find that?
Genesis.
Genesis 6.
Yep.
And it's just that simple. The concept is just that simple. We're not making this up. There's only a few verses that really talk about Noah. A chapter really as a whole and what was going on around the flood, because then it's after, like, when he gets out of the flood with his kids, but it's very short. And so it's got to, like, that's the big topic in Genesis 6. It's got to be talking about that too. So
Yeah. And so what we want to look at here is, okay, so we've seen this, and I always believed this for a long time, but then I thought, is it really going to happen? How's it going to happen? Is it going to be just genetically messing with things to create giants? Are the angels going to fall again? And then I started seeing something. I was just talking to somebody about this, and then I saw something on some major news outlets that I was like, You have to be kidding me right now. We see, you guys are probably familiar with, it's been opened up by the government. They've had panels about it. It's been very open and frequent. They've talked about these UFOs. That yes, we do have them. We do see them. They do move at rates that are not humanly possible with technology that wouldn't be humanly possible. And if these were manned ships, the people would be, because of the G-force, they'd be turned to jello. They would be dead.
Yep.
There's no way these are, and they're admitting this, but they're not telling us what it is. And now even more is coming out about these UFOs that we want to look at some videos today and we're going to react to. Is everybody, we're all cool with reacting to these videos?
Hold up.
So we'll put these videos up for you guys as well. And I just want you to pay attention to what's being talked about here, because it's absolutely insane when you start looking at it.
There are people out there right now, many watching right now, who just don't believe that any of this is happening. And that's fine. I get that. But over the last 2 weeks, multiple people, including 2 members of Congress, have not denied that our own government is experimenting with mixing the DNA between some alien species and humans, while the White House continues to telegraph that further disclosure is coming. We don't know when. Dr. Stephen Greer is the founder of the Disclosure Project. He is a researcher, a medical doctor. He's been on the forefront of this conversation for the last 3 decades. Dr. Greer, good to have you back. Last week, I had one of those members of Congress on this show, Tim Burchett, and he said this. Take a look.
If they would release the things that I've seen, you would stay up. You'd be up at night. I was briefed last week on an issue, 2 weeks ago, and it would have set the earth on. This country would have come unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard. They would demand answers, and we need to. The people that know are dying or disappearing, as the case may be.
Wow.
And for the record, I'm not suicidal.
Okay, so he said the things that I've seen would keep you up at night. You texted me right after the show that night, Dr. Greer.
Right.
Do you know what he's talking about, like, specifically?
Yeah, I do. So for a number of decades, we have used the retrieved non-human bodies, biologicals they're called, and created creatures that are part human, part not human, and very advanced.
You guys, did we all hear what he just said there? For years, they've been capturing these, I think he said
For decades.
decades, these organic, non-human biological creatures, and creating these half human, half whatever this is, people.
Yeah.
He's talking about something from not here, aliens, basically. We know what they are. They're not aliens. They're not demons either. Demons is not a biblical word. They get that from the Greek daemon and whatnot. It's fallen angels is what these are.
Yeah.
These UFOs are fallen angels, and they're flying around. They're starting to make themselves known slowly, so that we're desensitized to it, frankly. So when the rapture happens and all that, it'll be explained by all that. But even more, what we're focusing on here is that they just said exactly what we saw in Genesis 6 is happening with these non-human creatures.
So something to mention here is none of this is new, right? This has been happening for decades with fertilization, with the ability to drive to New York and pick the eye color that you have. And what I mean by that is they're not genetically necessarily making these creatures. He's saying that they're actually using biologic, non-human
Matter or whatever it
organisms.
is, yeah.
Whatever this is. We would say it's probably like a fallen angel in women, and that they're combining their sperm and egg. Either they're actually sleeping together or in vitro in a dish and creating these offspring.
That's what he's saying.
And so those are the only 2 options. There's no other option.
And this guy's a doctor. The other guys were government officials talking about this. This isn't crazy people with tinfoil hats.
So let's say that you don't believe that, well, there's no way an angel and a human could have a child.
Well, that's
In
not,
Genesis 6, it happened.
yeah.
And the point I was making, we were talking about, is like we've been doing it with lions and tigers in genetics for decades. This was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That no one thought it was possible, and they create this weird offspring. It happens in nature.
One way or another, it's possible. Whether we're capturing them and then forcing this, or whether they're just following again and forcing it, it's happening. That's the point.
Yep.
And what do angels look like? What do
Men.
we say? They just look like men. Look in the
Men.
Bible. Anytime an angel shows up, it just looks like a normal man. So maybe the women aren't even, they don't even know what's going on. It's very possible they don't even know what's going on.
Just look at Greek mythology, and Luke was just making this point when we
Yeah.
were off camera a little bit ago. And you look at Greek and Roman mythology, we've all been taught it. These women see these good-looking men,
Yep. They look like men.
and they
Nothing
come
else.
as gods, and they disguise themselves as men and act like normal people and sleep with the women, impregnate them, and then they're gone. And then the woman has some crazy, strong, yoked, weird-looking, sometimes children, who are half God, half human.
Mhm.
This is literally what the Bible's talking about.
I
think
would
it's-
probably say that personally, I guess we can't prove this for sure. It says
Yeah.
that they took them wives in Genesis. So
Yeah,
I would say it's more of a maybe not like a rape situation, but like they are wanting to do this. It's not like we're capturing them and forcing
They have a
them.
goal.
Could
yeah,
be
well,
either-
they
yeah.
want to do this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What were you saying, Micah?
As I said, I think it's interesting. I mean, there's even angels among us today. But
The Bible, yeah, the Bible does
Angels
say that.
unaware.
Unawares, we don't know because why? They look like men,
Some of these women might be very unaware.
very unaware. So, you know what, guys, this is you.
So that's a
You
good
think we're
point.
crazy?
Never
This
thought
is
about
movies steal this stuff from the Bible. The Greek mythology, the Percy Jackson movies. Go watch that stuff, and you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, that is literally what is being discussed here in Genesis 6. Or like when they do and they give birth, it's like this awful birth. The women almost die. Like all this kind of stuff that we see in Twilight and all these movies. It comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere.
That gives a whole nother meeting to making sure as a believer you're not unequally yoked to unbelievers.
Yeah.
You're sleeping around and screwing around. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I never thought about that. You could be sleeping with an angel. You don't even know it. A fallen angel.
Fallen
A
angel.
fallen angel. That's a weird
Find out
thing.
when you have a giant child. But
No, that's
of
just
these-
no. It's just
some
the
of these
sons
NBA
it's us.
players.
It's that's the question of why aren't the sons of God in Genesis 6 why aren't those just the sons of Seth, just the Old Testament believers? Well, that's like saying if a believer and a non-believer are married and they have a child, it's gonna be a giant. Like it's clearly that's not what's going to happen. It's just not what the Bible teaches. But
That
we're
was
going to
a
go ahead
side
and keep
note,
on with
but-
the video.
Medical research. And I've known about this since the 90s. And these have been used in covert operations, like the CIA document we have that admits they were using this sort of tech as well as the man-made UFOs to stage and hoax alien abductions and all manner of nonsense. The problem is it sounds like a science fiction movie, but it's been part of a larger multi-decade psychological warfare operation, partly run out of a division of the CIA and some out of other special operations and attached to the aerospace industry giants. But yes, we know details of that. We know where these weird experiments are going on. And I've handed that off to certain people in the national security structure and to certain members of Congress, as well as the names of whistleblowers who have been involved.
Okay, let me hold on. So there's a breeding program. Matt Gaetz said that. Tim Burchett didn't deny that. You're confirming that. Are there female volunteers that are taking part in this program? Like, how does that work?
No, there are no. The human subjects are ones who have been captured in distressed areas and used for human experimentation. It's similar to what one of our whistleblowers admitted to, last year when he said
and
that
do you
there
know,
were,
Dr. Greer, why would we do this? Like, who would want to do that?
they would do it to try to create diversions and make people think that there's a threat from outer space when there isn't one, and also to confuse and cover up illegally run covert programs and say the aliens are doing it. It's a classic diversion and deception operation.
Let me ask you about that. General Mike Flynn, and I don't mean to cut you off. We have to do this in the
it's
interest
fine.
of time. So for everyone
Sure.
at home, that's why. General Mike Flynn retweeted the interview with Tim Burchett. Here's the quote. I think we have the tweet. I believe Tim Burchett. He is not a man to mince words or to short sell the normal political BS, but be aware of a false flag alien operation by rogue elements inside the U.S. government. Dr. Greer, can you explain what he's talking about?
Yes, and this is exactly what Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, warned us on his deathbed. And he said that there would be an attempt to hoax a threat from outer space and kind of throw the world into sort of a totalitarian global dystopia. And that's been a plan that's been around since the mid-1950s. Okay. So General Flynn is 100% correct. And these sort of weird and scary things that you hear about associated with UFOs and UAPs is part of that psychological warfare operation.
Okay. I just want to ask you about Artemis 2, circled the moon, and NASA keeps shutting off the feed. They've got a live feed. You can essentially look anytime you want. And anytime there's something outside the window that doesn't look right out there in space, they just shut off the feed. Why are they doing that? Who's monitoring this that we're not supposed to see?
Well, it goes through a national security agency filtering system. And my uncle, as you know, helped design the lunar module, landed on the moon in 1969. And that was done then through a relay station in Australia and some other locations. So that is routine just to be able to be sure nothing is said or seen without first being captured and reviewed.
So it's safe to say Artemis 2 is being watched. Is that safe to say?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
of
other
course.
thing, and we don't have any time, but they didn't release any photos from the dark side of the moon that were not like iPhone 17 edited. Like there were no raw photos and you couldn't see the feed. They said they lost connection, so you couldn't see the feed.
All right, so here we see that, in government capacities, these weird things are being talked about. It's not just some crazy conspiracy, Bible believing, Bible thumper, blah, 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 that's been going on, back since when Ruckman was talking about this stuff. And he was back in the 80s and 90s. This is being talked on major news stations now. This stuff it's legit, it's out there, and people are starting to want answers on what's going on. And now I think that something else is interesting is if you can stage the whole point he's making, the thing is if you can stage this global
Catastrophe
catastrophe issue, what it does is it puts the power back in the major money and government's hands.
Wait
the
a second.
planet.
That sounds ridiculous. You're saying that if they create an emergency, then they can control what people do?
A global
It
emergency.
almost sounds like there was a test for that back in 2020.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't even that deadly, and they controlled everybody and where they went and what they wore, all these. Yeah, so if they say there's a threat from space, it's real. These things are real. And they've taken all these people from the earth. Somebody's going to come up, have an answer, create some peace, give some answers, and we know who that's going to be.
and roll it. It's
And
gonna be the
rule it all. And we
Antichrist.
know who that's going to be. He's going to take the crown. It's going to be given to him. His crown's going to be given to him, the Bible talks about. And guys, this is crazy. I mean, what did he just describe too? These women, were they volunteering for this? No, you could say they were taken.
They were taken.
They were taken.
Captured.
The ones they
And-
chose.
And it just so happens that in the past 3 years,
Liam Neeson.
we've had the release in one of the greatest, scientific movements in the last, really since creation with AI.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
right around the same time.
Yeah.
Wild stuff.
It's insane. We're gonna watch one more here and react to it. It's a guy named Michael Knowles. He's with the Daily Wire. You probably know him. He's a Catholic, and
Yeah.
so he uses demon. He's talking about fallen angels, and he's actually kind of on point with what he's thinking is going on here. And we will watch this video.
You all know what Matt Gaetz said. He said there are half a dozen to a dozen locations around the country where the army is raping aliens. Basically, is what he said. It is this breeding program for extraterrestrial human hybrids. I've been briefed on this by a uniformed member of the U.S. military. So Rob Finnerty on Newsmax just asked Congressman Tim Burchett, who is one of the more prominent figures involved in the UFO, UAP investigations. He asked him about Gates's claims, expecting Burchett to say, yeah, that's all a bunch of nonsense. That's crazy, whatever. Moving on. Keep calm and carry on. That's actually not what Burchett said. He didn't confirm it. He didn't say yes or he just said, if you knew the things I knew, it would keep you up at night. So what is keeping people up at night? What would keep people up at night? Congress lady Anna Paulina Luna, who's also involved in the UFO UAP disclosures, she clarified the issue.
So that happened. I can tell you, based on my investigations, not in a classified setting, that I absolutely believe that there is things that are advanced technologies not of human origin. And then
Okay.
we conducted the interview with David Grush. As you saw, it was one of the most widely attended congressional hearings in U.S. history. The information that was brought forward was particularly alarming because you're hearing about people that have potentially been murdered and covering up this information, and it was very interesting. So I advise everyone to watch it.
Yeah, was it, so based off what, and have you received classified information or just what they said?
No, yeah, we've, but I can't talk about
Yeah, of
that.
course
yeah.
you can't talk about it. So what did you, before you came to Congress, did you think aliens were real?
So I wouldn't call them aliens. I really like what Grush calls them. He says that they're interdimensional beings, and he's very specific
So what
about
does that mean?
I think it means that they're not necessarily a biological entity from another planet per se.
Interesting.
What I will say is, I share a Christian perspective on many things, and what's been interesting about this
Here
is
we have it.
the amount of stigma that existed previously to this cycle.
Yep.
But
Okay.
have
All right.
such
We
a
got it. Thank you, Anna Paulina Luna. Thank you. It's all a wordy way of saying what? What? You know how much I hate to say I told you so. It's all a wordy way of saying the aliens are demons. That's actually what that means. I'm not being hyperbolic in any way. That's what that means. When she says, well, I just don't know if I don't think they're biological. I think they're interdimensional beings. Okay. So what is a thing that is not physical? We mean it's not biological. It's also not inanimate. It's not like my cup or my microphone. It means it's not physical. So it's not physical, it's interdimensional, but it has intelligence and it has will. What is that? That's a demon. That's just what a demon is. You might say, well, I don't believe in demons. I'm not saying you have to believe in demons. You should, and you should believe in angels, and you should believe in immaterial substances, because we operate as if they exist every single day. And in fact, we can know with certainty that some immaterial substances exist. But regardless, I'm just saying that's what that is. When people say, well, that's great. Can you believe the vice president said he thinks aliens are demons? Can you believe that Michael said? Can you believe Anna Paulina Luna said? That's just the definition of a demon. Two definitions of a demon or an angel would be a non-physical interdimensional being. I guess that's one way to put it, or a spiritual but not religious. That's another way to put it too. Okay. How do you reconcile what Anna Paulina Luna said with what Tim Burchett said? The way you reconcile it is you recognize that when Tim Burchett says, if you knew what we saw, it would keep you up at night. What you would realize is that spirits are more shocking than aliens to materialists. C.S. Lewis makes this point. He says there are different degrees of scariness. There's the just scary. Basic scariness is when you're told there's a tiger in the next room. Then there's the uncanny, which is when you're told there's a ghost in the next room. It's not as with the tiger that you're afraid the tiger's going to come in and eat you. That when you hear that there's a ghost, what you're afraid of is not that the ghost is going to do anything to you. You're afraid that there are ghosts. Wait, what? That shakes my view of the world. And then there's the numinous, which is religious awe, which is the kind of the sublime fear of God. In any case, that's how you reconcile it. Little green men are much less scary than little green demons.
There's another video of him discussing more about it, and maybe I'll try and find it and put that one up. But what he is basically saying is he got what they were saying. We weren't making it up. The army is forcing these aliens, these fallen creatures. Another video of his, he calls them demons. Maybe that's why you guys didn't, when I sent it to our family thing. He says they're demons, and he says, think about it. Would he have said, you can go look it up for yourself if I can't put it up because we'll match the timing up and all that. But it's true. If you want to go find Michael Knowles talking about it, he says, would he have said it would keep you up at night if you found out it was green little people or something? Probably not, because people have kind of thought that for a while, and the government's been saying there's something out there, we don't know what it is, we can't explain what it's doing, all this stuff. He said the only way that would keep people up at night is if it was something spiritual, something beyond our world, because it would confirm that there is a spiritual realm, and that would frighten people who have become ultimately secular and naturalist, and they don't believe in the spiritual. He said that's the only thing that he would say, that if that guy said it's going to keep you up at night, you wouldn't believe it. The things that people don't believe, the things people don't want to believe in, the spiritual realm.
Yeah. But man,
I thought it was a good point.
It would back this Christianese movement that we have right now, and this conservative movement of people that believe in God. Really, it would back Catholicism. It would push everyone that way.
Yeah, and who would still be here after the rapture and say, oh, that's not the rapture, because look at all the spiritual people are still here. All the spiritual leaders of the world that everyone looks to is the Pope. Everyone thinks
everyone in the Vatican's still here. You know, all these Christians, these so-called Christians are still here. These are the good people. They aren't the crazy Bible, conspiracy theorists. Why would that happen?
Conspiracy theory. Except the Bible told us thousands of years ago. Why are we surprised watching those videos? It said this was going to happen in those days, like the days of Noah. Before I come back, it's going to happen again.
Yep.
Why would we be surprised?
Yeah. So, this was going on in Genesis chapter 6. We went through sons of God, studied through exactly who those are, where they came from. It says in those days they're going to show up again. The word mighty men shows up in Revelation 6:15. It's exactly what it says in Genesis 6, exactly what it says about Nimrod, who we believe is a giant, in Genesis chapter 5. All of this stuff that we've been seeing, those days, it's here at the end, and we're starting to see pieces of it right now. It's starting to happen in front of our eyes right now, like Luke said earlier, to desensitize us towards what's ultimately going to happen once we're out of here.
And maybe that'll lead into next week. Maybe we will do a controversial topic on the events of the end, the signs of the end. Israel, Jaden said this earlier. Go ahead and say it now about how this
stuff and all these UFOs and everything that's been seen in the sky, and it's been around for a lot of it's been around for a while, but this stuff really started to pick up post 1948 when Israel became a nation. Because why? Because God was moving his eye back towards Israel, getting that nation ready for the judgment of the nation of Israel, the tribulation period.
Well, and because got to ramp up.
And because if you study Israel, you study the fig tree in the Bible, Israel is the time clock. They are the source material for signs of the end.
Yep.
And once that fig tree started budding again, the events began to cascade quickly, very, very quickly.
I think this is a good point too. The height of devilish and fallen angel movement that we know of in Scripture was when Christ walked the
Yeah,
planet.
that's a great point too.
3 years
Around his first coming.
around his first coming. It was the 3 years, and then if you just read the Gospels, there's constant devil movement and
Because we don't
and
see it nearly
angel-
as much in the Old Testament.
angelic attacks. And go look at Psalm 22. It's Psalm 22, right? I always get these
That's Jesus on
one
the
here.
cross.
Yeah,
I know.
he's that's what he's talking
With
about.
the bulls of Bashan.
Yeah, and this spiritual attack that was happening on Jesus when he was on the cross, and how amazing it was. And then it's kind of since his life, we don't really see it in history happen very much. When you look back at church history, you have bits and pieces, but then all of a sudden, as we get closer to a second coming and the rapture,
Spiritual
look what's starting
activity.
to tick up again.
Yep.
Spiritual activity, fallen angels, these battles and these crazy things that are going on in the world again. It's coming. It's because he's coming close.
And they are, if you read the accounts, I've watched, I don't know if I should admit this or not, it probably sounds stupid, but I've watched 4 or 5 hour governmental hearings on these things.
Oh, yeah.
And they discuss that these pilots, and you guys have probably heard this too, but these pilots say, no, they're very brazen. Like we couldn't see them, and if they didn't want us to, and sometimes they'll fly it between our formations and things, like almost like messing with us, like they want
to
us
show
to
us
see
they
them.
can.
Why would that happen? The devil wants to start to show his hand. He wants to start the end times religion. Again, this is not conspiracy. The end times religion is not atheism. It is a theistic world under the Antichrist that is worshiping a false god. That's what it is. The end times religion will not be anti-spiritual. There's spiritual people all around the place. I was in Portland. What was the question we'd ask people? Do you have any spiritual beliefs?
Yeah.
How many people do? Almost everybody. Now, it won't be God. It won't be the God of the Bible. Absolutely not. But a spiritual belief? Yeah, people are spiritual now more than ever. And the devil wants people to know that there's a spiritual realm. Because eventually, he's going to want them to worship him as who? As God. He's going to sit in the temple showing himself that he is God. That's what he wants. And this is the beginning of it. It's crazy. It's crazy. But the Bible told us it was going to happen all these years ago. And maybe next week now, we'll dive into Israel, the fig tree. I mean, proving that biblically, and then just the signs of the end and what's going to start to happen even more.
So I'd say today took a little bit more of a turn than what we even discussed was going to happen. I know we talked about earlier on giants, and that was one of the things we had mentioned. We really talked more about probably fallen angels and spiritual warfare leading into the end times discussion. So just to shore up something with giants earlier, we believe that the giants were the children of angels that had fallen and rebelled against God, came to the earth, slept with women and took them wives, and created these soulless, weird offspring known as giants.
Abominations is what they were.
Yep, quite literally. And then the flood happened, and God wiped all that out. But the problem was we actually see the giants show up again through 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, the days of
Deuteronomy, the Promised Land.
David killed one, Goliath. And so it's like,
well, did he or did Elhanan kill him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a
depends
whole
which
separate-
Bible you have, I guess.
But the point I'm making here is, well, if God destroyed all the giants in the flood, then why did David kill a giant? Well, guess what, guys? It must still be happening to some extent.
Yeah.
It's most likely, could they have made it through the flood?
Maybe.
Maybe. It says that everything that had breath, had the breath in it, died. So it's like, okay, maybe, but, or are angels, have angels still fallen and decided that they're going to come and sleep with women and have children? Is that still happening today? Well, according to what we just watched and lining up with the Bible, yes, it is still happening today.
And there's giants being created right now in those days, for those days.
And this was the Bible and a major news media. This wasn't just the Johnston brothers making weird stuff up.
Because if you didn't catch it, when Jaden said that when Jesus shows up, there's mighty men. Yeah, when Jesus shows up the second time, there's going to be giants that he is going to destroy and kill.
Yep.
There's going to be mighty men again. Nimrod was a mighty man of valor. It's always equated with giants in the Bible. It's insane.
Did we mention that reference?
Yeah, there was
He did.
6:15. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But thank you for watching. Hopefully you found it informative. If you have any questions, please let us know. I think there's probably a lot of things that could be said about the subject, but ultimately you study out sons of God. You study out the generations of Noah. You study out, what was going on with Job and the sons of God, and why are there some angels that are free to roam in spiritual warfare? Why are there some that are chained up? And the picture just starts to come together pretty clearly, I believe. But maybe you have questions. Maybe there's things you think, why didn't you mention this? Well, we'd love to touch on that, and we'll probably continue more similar discussions next week. So please throw those comments in there, throw an emoji in there if you were watching and you enjoy this. Share it with your friends and family, and subscribe if you haven't. But like I said, thank you guys for watching.